Welcome back. This is the Derek Smith Spiel, and this is another weekly sports update. This one, May 20th through May 26th, 2025, but that's unnecessary. Started in the NFL, kind of working backwards today. Fred Warner has signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the 49ers, and over $56 million of that are guaranteed. That is a huge purse, a well-deserved raise and contract for Fred Warner. Warner is coming off a year where he played the last 13 weeks on a fractured ankle, and he still made his fourth All-Pro team, his third consecutive as well. Fred Warner is one of, if not the, I would say the best linebacker in the NFL right now. Huge signing for the 49ers, especially on a defense that struggled last year. To sign a leader back who consistently balls every week, it's a huge pickup. The 49ers have a history of not getting deals done and re-signing their stars until August. However, in this past month, this year, they have already re-signed Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle. Those really are the big three. No disrespect to Christian McCaffrey. But when you look at the 49ers and the success they've had, Christian McCaffrey is newer and obviously a huge factor. Part of the reason they were inconsistent last year was because of the injury to Christian McCaffrey. But for the 49ers to re-sign all of their stars is a great sign. Expect a bounce-back year. Another note, really interesting, is that none of those superstars who are in conversation of being the best in their position, I'm talking about Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle, none of those guys were drafted in the first round by the 49ers. They were all drafted by the 49ers, but none of them in the first round. It's very interesting. You got to give credit to the GM and everyone in charge of the drafting at San Fran. That's a very impressive stat line. There were NFL meetings held this week, and the NFL owners first approved the proposal for players to compete in flag football in the 2028 Olympics. 24 of the 32 teams needed to vote in favor for the proposal to pass. That's pretty universal for any proposal. The league still needs to negotiate with the NFL Players Association and consult with Olympic officials, but it is looking like NFL players will be allowed to compete in the 2028 Olympics for flag football. In the next meeting, the league will discuss the final details, but the expectation is that the rules will be the following. 1. Any player on an NFL roster has permission to try out. 2. Only one player per NFL team on each national team can participate. So, for example, one NFL team, they could have a Canadian representative, an American representative, and they could do that, but they cannot have two American representatives. 3. International players can represent their own country. 4. Insurance will be purchased to cover any injuries that may occur. 5. Salary cap credit to any injured player. 6. Expectations that every Olympic team will have a medical staff and field up to the NFL standards. And 7. A schedule that does not, quote-unquote, unreasonably conflict with the NFL schedule. But still, expect to see the NFL's brightest stars representing America in the 2028 Olympics. It is a huge honor for all of the players. Really, anyone who's been asked, they're beyond honored to be able to represent America. It's really cool to see. But another thing that was discussed in the meeting was the tush push. The tush push survived. It will be a legal play next year, but it barely made it by. Again, 24 of 32 NFL teams needed to vote against it for it to get taken away. 22 teams voted against it. It was a 2-team difference on whether the tush push stayed or went, and it is staying. The argument to get rid of the tush push was more convincing this time around because last time the vote was held, it was an even 16-16 split. Arguments to get rid of the tush push were how unstoppable the play is, how boring the play is, and the threat of injury that it brings. The threat of injury is nothing really proven. It is speculated, but still, any threat to players on the field, the NFL is going to be very quick to protect their players, as they should be. But the debate itself between the NFL owners got heated. The Eagles owner, Jeffrey Lurie, was very passionate and fighting with everything he had to keep his team's unstoppable play legal. His speech to keep the play lasted nearly an hour. The 49ers owner was so frustrated by the hour-long rant that he flat out asked how much longer Lurie was going to go for. That got a couple chuckles from the owner, but as you can guess, not Lurie or anybody representing the Philadelphia Eagles. But tempers reached the hottest point when Lurie said that banning such a successful play was like having a wet dream for a teenage boy. No one really liked that analogy. That was not a popular one. Hopefully he did not go into explaining it when nobody laughed at his analogy. One thing of note, this time around in the discussion regarding the tush push, Travis Kelce came back to help his team, the Philadelphia Eagles, try and keep this play. And just hearing a player's perspective, that could have made the two-team difference in the voting. A lot of credit has gone to Jason Kelce, especially when he said he would come out of retirement if he could run that play every snap. That especially helped with the argument that the tush push is dangerous for players, because old Jason Kelce obviously doesn't think so if he would come back and run that play. He loves that play, is very proud of it, and he should be. He was a big reason that the Eagles were so successful for it. In the meetings, the Bills owner, Terry Pegula, he said that his team was good at the tush push, but he is still voting against it. He must not remember last year's AFC Championship game. I kind of chuckled reading that when the Bills owner was saying how their team was so good at it, but they're still voting against it. That doesn't even make sense. I guess they just really wanted it gone. But as a Lions fan, this really warmed my heart. It made me proud to be a Lions fan when I saw this on a TikTok video. The Detroit Lions are the only team who is playing Philadelphia and voted to keep the tush push. It brings me bragging rights and pride. Oh, I love it. I love it. Now bouncing to the UFC, this is something, the UFC, it owns the summer. The UFC owns the summer. The fights that they have lined up are unbelievable. And there's still more. Ilia Topuria will get his title shot at 155 pounds, but it will not be against Makhachev. Instead, it will be against Charles Oliveira. Makhachev, the number one, everyone wanted to see the number one pound for pound against number two pound for pound fight in Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria, but both of them are bumping up at the same time. That is why Topuria is facing Charles Oliveira. The Topuria-Oliveira fight will take place June 28th at UFC 317 in none other than Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Makhachev is moving up to welterweight to face Jack Della Maddalena for his second belt. What does this look like for Makhachev? It's a really good question. The narrative is obviously getting out there that Makhachev is dodging Topuria, and he doesn't want to put his number one pound for pound title on the line. I don't know if you can say that's true. Both are phenomenal fighters. Both want to be double champs. It's very similar to the GSP and Anderson Silva super fight that everyone wanted, but it obviously never came. I don't think this is to the same degree of hype yet, but that would be a fight everyone would tune into. Makhachev's getting a lot of heat I don't think it's deserved. He has his own agenda, and so does Taporia. Another question: could this be Oliveira's last chance to win a title? And unfortunately, it very well could be. When you look at the young fighters coming up, and Oliveira is still competitive, and you know he's always got the threat for a submission, but it's just it's the vicious cycle of the UFC. You just hit this point where they feed you these young athletes heading into their peak who are just hungrier than ever to get a title and get just ranked and just to fight. This could be Charles Oliveira's last time to win a title. Again, there's no guarantees, but it's never easy. But it would not. It would be more difficult than ever for Oliveira to get another title shot if he doesn't capitalize on this. So a lot on the line for Oliveira as well as Topuria. Fast forward to UFC 319. DDP, Dricus du Plessis will face Khamzat Chimaev for the middleweight championship. Chimaev is undefeated in his MMA career and has not fought since October of 2024. However, both DDP and Chimaev have beaten 6 former champions in their past 6 fights. UFC 319, that main event is going to be a banger. I'm so excited this summer just for what Dana White and the UFC has cooking up. Last but not least, let's look into the MLB, specifically at the Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr. played in his first MLB game since May 26th last year, coming off of a gruesome ACL tear. There were a lot of questions for Ronald Acuna Jr. when he came back, and it was going to be an experiment because they didn't want Acuna to play restricted, and they didn't want him to change the way he played, but they wanted him to take out the unnecessary risks. And Acuna Jr., he didn't want to steal bases anymore, given that he had 2 ACL tears, both of them coming from base running. You really wondered what it would look like when Ronald Acuna Jr. came back. Well, on Friday, he answered the question. First pitch he saw, he hit for a no-doubt home run. Love to see it. That was an awesome moment. Really happy for Ronald Acuna Jr. It's not always easy to come back from an injury, and it won't always stay easy, but it's great to see, especially a star like that in the MLB, come back with so much fire and come back with a bang. But that's a bit of a shorter episode. That's all I've got for May 20th through May 26th. Thanks for tuning in. This episode was brought to you by yours truly, Derek Smith, with help from the voice memos and Spotify Podcasters app. For more content like this, you can continue listening to the Derek Smith Spiel on Spotify, or you can listen on my YouTube channel at Derek Smith Stock 13. There you'll find my podcast and sports betting videos on top of that. If you're a fan of my sports betting videos, you can also see highlights of those on my TikTok account. You can find that by searching at SmithStock5 again on TikTok. Enjoy collecting cards? If so, check out my Collects account at Derek Smith Stock to get deals on quality cards. For updates on everything I mentioned, follow my Instagram account. You can find that by searching Derek Smith Stock 13 on Instagram. Not interested in sports? Then go to YouTube and watch Dylan Smith Outdoors YouTube channel. Search Dylan Smith Outdoors, where there are plenty of outdoor content videos, including hunting, catching, trail cam and tree stand setup, cooking, and plenty of laughs in between. Need your lawn sprayed? Whether it's weeds or insects, Greenwood Ecologics has you covered. If you need help making your lawn greener than your neighbors, call Greenwood Ecologics at 585-739-1111. 1610. I repeat, 585-739-1610. Finally, thank you for listening to this production of the Derek Smith Spiel. Every view or listener is appreciated. I'll catch you later.